frankly, my move today is another step in that effort to strengthen the institution.
Can you get the votes to win Speaker?
I believe we can. A lot of people have counted me out before, but I think if we work hard, we'll be able to do it. Everybody thought Hillary Clinton was unbeatable, right? But we put together a Benghazi special committee, a select committee. What are her numbers today? Her numbers are dropping.
That's an absolute inappropriate statement.
I don't care how many times you put an earpiece in your ear and looked into a camera, you still screw up. And Kevin screwed up.
If I can't unite everybody, it's better to find someone who can.
Well, it's been quite a day. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy says he's withdrawing his name to run for Speaker. He says he wants to stay as House Majority Leader. Will he? What's next? Well, Paul Ryan is being recruited. Speaker John Boehner called him twice today, long conversations. Also, Trey Gowdy trying to persuade Paul Ryan to take over the job, or to run for it, rather. And Mitt Romney, we're told, making phone calls to his old vice presidential nominee, trying to get him to run for Speaker. Here's what the statement from Paul Ryan says. Kevin McCarthy is the best person to lead the House, so I'm disappointed in this decision. Now it's important that we as a conference take time to deliberate and seek new candidates for the speakership. While I'm grateful for the encouragement I've received, I will not be a candidate. I continue to believe I can best serve the country and this conference as chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. And moments ago, his office said his statement stands. Let's bring in our panel. Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard. A.V. Stoddard, associate editor of The Hill. And Tucker Carlson, host of Fox and Friends Weekend. A.B., shocker. It was dealt with in stunned silence in the conference. How does this go?
Well, there are members in all the chaos late today ever hopeful that Paul Ryan will reconsider and that he is a selfless man, that he's a natural leader, that he is loyal to the conference, has seen all the tumult of the last few years, been a part of it, is the true bridge between the conservative wing of the conference and the sort of leadership table, and that he'll rise to the moment. So despite the fact that he put that statement out immediately and still stands by it as of airtime here, that's the great hope, is that he's the person that would immediately be elected without a problem, and there's no one else, there's no other, the only consensus candidate. There are others. Jeb Hensarling and Trey Gowdy would be popular, but they've said, I think they've said something like, I'd rather lick the bottom of my shoes. No, it's a tough job. No one wants it, but Paul Ryan, who also doesn't want it, just may be convinced. So everyone's waiting in hopes at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning they all get together for some kind of flesh out session. And I think the great hope is that he will relent. And if he doesn't, there's a lot of people who are interested, but other people, just say no one can get to 218.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, John Boehner stays on until they get to 218. If they don't get to this consensus candidate, he stays on, right. And that's not going to set off conservatives too well.
No, it's certainly not going to settle things. I've spoken to people who have talked to Paul Ryan in the last couple hours, and they say that while his default position is, I'm not doing it, he's listening. He's having these conversations. He's walking through what the process would look like. I think there's some concern that members of the House Freedom Caucus wouldn't support Ryan, that maybe Ryan even couldn't get to 218. I think
although Mick Mulvaney said that he thought that he would be...
Which was I was most interested to hear that from Mick Mulvaney, that he thought he could be a transformational candidate, I think is what he told you. I've heard members of the House Freedom Caucus trash Paul Ryan directly to me, to my face. And, they disagree with him on immigration, they disagree with him on debt ceiling negotiations. So I think there's some question as to whether he could get to 218. It was interesting to hear Mick Mulvaney say that. It would be interesting to sort of survey the rest of that caucus to see if they think Paul Ryan would in fact be that candidate, because I think if you could tell Paul Ryan that he would have 247 votes, I think it would really put additional pressure on him to consider it.
Can we just talk about what happened to Kevin McCarthy? I mean, we went through how we got there and the Benghazi statement and all of that. This Freedom Caucus is 45 members. There are 247
yes, there are.
Republicans.
The most in many generations.
So how does this happen for somebody sitting on the couch at home?
Well, there are a lot of cross currents. As you know, there's an awful lot going on here. I think if you take 3 steps back, the bottom line is most people who really understood the math didn't think he was going to be Speaker anyway. And I think they believed that.
Even if he won in the conference, he would never get to the vote.
I think people in leadership thought, as of February of 2016, Kevin McCarthy would not be the Speaker. I mean, I know they thought that. So, whether that's true or not is another question. clearly there are people out not just to prevent him from becoming Speaker, but out to destroy him personally as a man. And I have to say, I think that's distressing. And this is a test to some extent for the conservatives in the caucus, with whom, by the way, for whatever it's worth, I sympathize all the time instinctively. On the other hand, they need to demonstrate, really, some capacity to build things. Pretty easy to destroy things, as any boy knows. It's fun to wreck things and blow them up with M80s. And sometimes it's necessary. Much harder, though, to undertake the difficult incremental process of building something worth having. And they have not yet demonstrated the capacity to do that. Now is the time to do that. Possibly convincing Paul Ryan, who I think sincerely doesn't want the job to do it, would be a step. But they really have to show they can build something. They do. And I'm a conservative.
So building that 218 consensus, let's say Paul Ryan doesn't do it, AB. John Boehner stays on. You've got a debt ceiling vote that's coming up. You've got a funding the government vote that's coming up. You've got a highway transportation bill. And he starts moving things that only can pass with Democratic votes.
I think the best scenario for Paul Ryan or any successor to John Boehner is that John Boehner does what he said he was going to do before, which would have put Kevin McCarthy in a really tough spot, which is his barn cleaning procedure. And he gets through the Export-Import Bank authorization, the highway bill, the debt ceiling, even does an omnibus and says, I'm going to leave in January, at which time we will elect a new speaker, so that the new speaker is free, whether it's Paul Ryan or anyone else, from the constraints of what we're going to go through in the next couple months. That sounds cynical, but that might be the only way out.
I mean, that is just going to be met by chaos.
No question, but I think it's really the only, almost the most likely thing to happen if there's not some consensus pick. If you can't get to, an overwhelming majority of Republicans backing one new person for the Speaker role, I think that's the most likely scenario by far.
But even if Paul Ryan is willing to do this, I think it's better for him to do it in January.
Because the conservatives could then say, okay, vacate the Speaker's role, but then they still have the problem of getting to 218, the magic number to get a candidate to take over.
Sure, not getting what they want. I mean, that's, I think, Tucker's.
But is that really the goal? And by the way, Boehner has suggested to people around him that I think he would be willing to stay. Obviously, he doesn't want to, but he would be willing to. But again, you shouldn't knock off the king unless you have someone to replace him. This is an age-old principle. It's not higher math. And they didn't.
But they're math deniers.
Oh, come on.
It doesn't matter if Paul Ryan is Speaker. No, it doesn't matter if Paul Ryan is Speaker. They don't have the votes to get to their goals. They have to keep the government.
But you have to have goals. That's the thing. I don't even know what the goals are.
Yes, they want to defund Planned Parenthood. They want to stop amnesty. They have many goals, which people agree with in their conference and at the leadership table. They don't have the votes to get there. You need 2/3 of the Congress to override a president of another party, and they don't have it.
Oh, I'm aware.
Okay.